A very warm welcome to the InvestNest webinar. Now, we are looking at a very intriguing session here today for the ASX mineral companies addressing clean energy and the precious metal market as part of our InvestNest webinar series. My name is James Preston. I am your host for today. I'm a news anchor with Kalkine TV, and I'm really looking forward to what should be a very illuminating session from our three expert speakers. And just before I introduce them, let me just take you through a little disclaimer here. It's very important to note that the information contained in this webinar is for informational purposes only, and it's not a solicitation or recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock of the company or any companies that might be discussed or engage in any investment activity under discussion in general. Here at Kalkine, we are neither licensed nor qualified to provide investment advice through this platform. All right, well, green energy metals like copper and lithium have been garnering a lot of attention lately, thanks to the critical role that they play in the green energy transition. Green energy generation consumes more minerals compared to traditional methods. And given this importance, green energy metals are categorized as critical metals. And to talk us through this burgeoning space, I'm very pleased to introduce experts from three of Kalkine Media's valued clients, namely the Managing Director of Cooper Metals, Ian Warland, the Managing Director of Empire Resources, Sean Richardson, and the Managing Director of Tempest Minerals, Don Smith. All three of our experts will be delivering their presentations, and then we'll also have the opportunity for questions to be posed to them once we've all wrapped up with the individual presentations themselves. Now, our first speaker today is Ian Warland. Ian is, of course, the Managing Director of Cooper Metals, and he brings 25 years of experience in Australia and across the world over a wide range of commodities. He's a highly experienced and successful geologist. In 2006, he was the joint recipient for Explorer of the Year for the discovery of the jacinth and ambrosia zircon-rich mineral sand deposits. And to talk more about the transition into green energy and the role of both critical materials and, of course, Cooper Metals Limited itself, I now throw it over to Ian. Ian, the virtual floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, James. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. So can everyone see? Can you see that, James?
Yep, looks good, mate. All yours.
Excellent. Okay, thanks to Kalkine Media for organising today's panel, and also thank you to investors for tuning in. So I'll mostly be talking about Cooper Metals and our flagship project, our copper gold project in the Mount Isa region. So to get started, a quick disclaimer, a little overview of the company. So at a share price of about 30 cents, we've got a market cap of around $13 to $15 million. We've got about $5.5 million in the bank. We've recently raised $2.5 million just in August. And we're a very tightly held company. So the board has around 12% of the company, and the top 20 shareholders have over 50% of the company. So at this market cap, we're really highly leveraged to any exploration success. And you can see our share price performance from when we listed in November last year has been very good. So our issued price was 20 cents. We're currently around 30, just over 30 cents today. And we've been trading in a range around that 30 to 50 cents through most of the year. So a little bit about critical minerals and clean energy. Like most of the viewers, I'm sure, are really familiar with what's driving the demand for copper. So basically, with our transition to clean energy and electric vehicles, we need a lot more copper mineralization, and copper deposits are depleting. So therefore, we need to find more supply of that. So for instance, an electrical vehicle uses at least twice as much copper as a conventional vehicle. And out of the 9 critical minerals that are identified by the International Energy Agency, copper is by far really the most important. And you can see in that graphic there that the blue color is the amount of copper that's needed in power generation and in electric vehicles. So we're going to need a lot of copper going forward, and Cooper Metals wants to be a big supplier of that copper. Just a little bit more to hammer this home. So global refined copper usage will double in the next 15 years. And there's this looming supply gap that you can see in this graph over here on the right-hand side of the screen. So we hope to help fill that supply gap and take advantage of the rising copper prices. Now, In the last couple of months, there has been some pressure on the copper price. It's come down about 20% since April, I believe. But, the fundamentals for copper are by far and very, very strong. So in the long term, the copper price, I believe, should continue to rise. And that's why we're really targeting the copper mineralisation. Now, I think we're in probably one of the best places in Australia, if not the world, to look for copper. Cooper Metals does have 3 projects. We have 2 projects in WA with a copper gold focus, but our flagship project really is the Mount Isa East Copper Gold Project. And Mount Isa Inlier is a very exciting place at the moment to explore for copper gold. There's quite a lot of recent success, and it's a hotbed of merger and acquisition activity, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So going straight into our project there, the Mount Isa East Copper Gold Project. Here's a map of our tenure that you can see in brown. You've got Mount Isa itself just over the left-hand part of the screen. And we're only about 30 to 50 kilometres away from Mount Isa. So we're close to infrastructure. That means if we find any small to medium-sized copper deposits, then there's potential to toll treat that mineralisation through places like Mount Isa Glencore mine itself, or through Ernest Henry, possibly even Eloise. So there's a number of mines in the area already. There's several small to medium-sized deposits in the area, and what we call the Mary Kathleen domain, which you can see runs through the middle of the screen there. It's a very prospective area. There's deposits like Duchess and the Tickhill Gold. There's the Barbara deposit, which is around 5 million tonnes at 1.6% copper. Now that was open pit mined up to 2020. And I believe that Aeris Resources, who now the owners of Barbara, are looking at going underground there potentially in the near future. So it's a highly prospective area. Now that's been highlighted especially by our neighbours, Carnaby Resources. So they're shown here in yellow. They're only about, they're adjacent to our tenure. And they've had some recent discoveries at Nil Desperandum, Lady Fanny, and Mount Hope, where, today they just released a significant intercept of 60 metres at around 3% copper. So there's a lot of exciting activity happening in this highly prospective area of the Mary Kathleen domain at Mount Isa. Now, we've already identified a number of old historical occurrences throughout Cooper's tenure. And a lot of these have had no drilling at all, or just some drilling back in the early 90s. So there's a lot of work to do there. And we've recently had some drilling success at our King Solomon deposit, which I'll talk a bit more about. So King Solomon and the Python copper gold prospects, they're in the sort of northern part of our tenure. You can see this map here. Here's King Solomon. There's a series of old workings at King Solomon, pits and shafts that cover around 1.5 kilometres of strike length. And then just 2 kilometres to the northwest, we've got the Python workings as well. Now, we've done 2 rounds of drilling at King Solomon, which I'll cover in a bit more detail, and hit some significant shallow copper and gold mineralisation. And we'll be going back there late this month to do another round of drilling, and also testing what we call the Python EM conductor up here with the gold star. So Python was a series of old workings, some shafts and pits that have had no real drilling in the past. But while we were looking in that area doing some ground EM, we found a conductor, which we've just worked through the approvals for to do the drilling there, and that'll be starting later in the year. Now, this is a pretty busy slide. What it's showing here, you can see a hot cold map of the IP chargeability anomaly. So we did some IP induced polarization at King Solomon, and this is what we call King Solomon 1. It covers about 650 metres of strike length, and we've done 2 rounds of RC drilling in that area. And we've hit significant grades like 19 metres at 1.6% copper, in a higher grade portion of around 5 metres at 4.5% copper. So there's significant mineralisation here, which you can see in the next slide, which is our long section. So a long section, if I just flick back, is a section that runs through the length of the mineralisation. And these little pierce points here are the pierce points of the drilling, which are color coded by copper mineralization times meters. And what we've identified is 3 plunging shoots of higher grade copper gold mineralization. Now, this is really important for our targeting because it gives us a focus for our drilling, which is to follow these plunging shoots down plunge. Now, we've only drilled, you can see from the scale here, we've only really drilled about 150 meters, up to 150 meters down dip. So we've got a lot, it's all open at depth and there's a lot more drilling to do. Now, this plunge component is something that you see in the Mount Isa district repeating itself at many deposits such as the Barbara deposit, Nil Desperandum, and even the Jericho, D Metallica's Jericho deposit. So part of our next drilling program will be following up these plunging shoots to extend the mineralization at depth. Just to show you a couple of drill sections, vertical sections, section 1 and section 5, to give you an example of the mineralization. You can see here down to about 100 meters. This hole got 17 meters at 2.2% down the bottom there, and it's all open at depth. We also have what we call King Solomon 2 and 3. Now that's about 200 meters along strike from King Solomon 1. The best intercept there was 18 meters at 1.4% copper and some gold. And what we're finding, but generally in this area, is a much broader, lower grade copper gold mineralization, which may be indicative of a large iron oxide copper gold system, which is really encouraging for this area. But the focus for us really is on King Solomon 1 and trying to extend that mineralization at depth. A bit more detail about Python Prospect. Again, this is just about 2.3 kilometers along strike from King Solomon. We'll be following up this EM anomaly, and the EM anomaly that the geophysicist has modeled indicates that there's a plunging shoot, again plunging and around in the southeasterly direction. So that's a really exciting target. We'll be putting 2 RC holes into that starting at the end of this month, and we'll have some news flow about that before Christmas. Now, there's a number of other prospects in our tenure there. I should mention that we've got around 1,600 square kilometres of tenure in the Mount Isa region. So we're building a pipeline of targets to systematically test over the coming months and years. And another one of these is the Yarraman prospect, for an example, which has a 400 metre long soil anomaly, copper and soil anomaly, and that's yet to be drill tested. Similarly, in our southwestern part of the project area, we have some old workings, including the Wonder Mine, where we got some very high-grade rock chips, and we intend to do some drilling there in 2023 to follow that up. As part of this building the larger pipeline of deposits or targets to drill in the Mount Isa East area, we've done what we call an airborne EM survey, a VTEM survey that covers these 3 main blocks, which you can see in this diagram here. So that VTEM survey looks for conductive bodies underground that are usually conductive due to sulfides, or they may be conductive through to non-economic mineralization. So we need to go do ground truthing of these different conductors that we've identified, and that process has already started and it is ongoing. So we'll be generating ground truthing those targets and then generating geochem and follow-up geophysics to get those targets drill ready. Exciting amount of targets to test in our Mount Isa East Copper Gold project. Before I move out off Mount Isa East Copper Gold project, it really is a hotbed of merger and acquisitions activity at the moment. You've just seen Harmony Gold come in and purchase for $230 million, purchase Copper Mountain stake. Now their ground is all around us. You've also seen AIC Minerals doing a takeover for D Metallica, which has the Jericho deposit near Eloise. So it's a really exciting area from an M&A activity as well. Now, just very briefly, we do have the copper gold project in WA that's not far from Silver Lake's Deflector Mine. Deflector Mine has about 1.2 million ounces of gold. It's high grade, and we've been doing some soil sampling out there, generated some gold anomalies, which we hope to follow up in the coming months with some RAB drilling, and we're just going through the approval process there. So we've already identified new targets to follow up, and that's an exciting greenfields project as well. So the key takeaways are that we've intersected significant copper gold mineralization at our King Solomon prospect already. We've identified 3 plunging shoots, which we'll be following up later this year with some more RC drilling. I intend to do some induced polarization to look even deeper down, potentially follow that up with diamond drilling next year. And we'll be testing our Python EM conductor this year as well. That we have year-round news flow from three different projects in Australia, and we're well funded and highly leveraged to any exploration success. So thank you for your attention.
I would say promising for the next, well, at least 12 months, potentially further long-term than that.
Look, definitely, some of our neighbours have been working in this area for quite a few years, and we've only been not even there 12 months and had significant exploration success already. And I believe we're really just getting started and building that momentum. Like I said, the Mount Isa region is a hotbed of merger and acquisition as well, and and exploration success. So it's a great, exciting area. And if you look at that in the context of a rising copper market with good fundamentals, it's a great project.
100%. I mean, you already spoke in that presentation as well about the increase in the share price from around about 20 cents to now being up over that 30-cent mark. So with all that in the pipeline too, it could well be a nice little windfall for the company too. So thanks for sharing that. I'm sure we're going to get plenty of questions. We'll get to those a little later on. So if you do have any questions and you happen to be tuning in via Zoom or wherever else, particularly on Zoom, if you have a look in the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll see Q&A. That's where you can start adding your questions in there for Ian, and of course for our other guest speakers here today as well. And speaking of which, let's now move on to our second speaker for the day. That happens to be none other than Mr. Sean Richardson. Sean is the Managing Director of Empire Resources, and much like Ian, he too has more than 25 years of experience in the industry. And in this time, Sean has provided operational, consultancy and managerial experience in Australia, North America, Africa, the Southeast and Central Asian mineral projects. So he's pretty much been all over the globe with his expertise. And he's also a graduate member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, or GACID, and a fellow of the Australasian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy. As for the company itself, Empire Resources is a gold and copper focused explorer and developer with 3 100% owned, highly prospective projects in Western Australia. And certainly Sean will know a lot more about them than I will. So now is more the time than ever to turn this over to Sean and give the virtual floor to him. Sean, take us through exactly what's happening with Empire Resources.
So thanks, James. Thanks for the introduction. And it's great to be here again on Kalkine Media. I'd like to take you through the presentation that we have in front of us. Just a disclaimer there. First of all, I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction of Empire for those that don't know us. We're a exploration company, as James said, based in Western Australia. We've got some significant advanced exploration projects and our activities ongoing across all of those projects. Recently completed air core drilling at our Penny's Gold project in just out of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia. Result depending on that, so we're anticipating that imminently. And across our other projects, we'll be back up in the field at Nanity, which is a copper gold project just out of Meekatharra, plus ongoing field work at Barlawiri, another polymetallic project out of Kew in Western Australia. Our project ever growing, always looking for value accretive acquisitions and opportunistic pegging of tenements. We've got about 452 square kilometres of granted tenure in Western Australia, and we have about the same again in tenement applications. We've got 2 new projects, or new to us recently, the Nanity Copper project out of Meekatharra, plus a gold project just outside of Meekatharra as well that we'll be keen to get back on the ground of in the next few months. Financially quite strong, about $5.5 million at the end of the quarter. We've got really good shareholder support and 0 debt, and really just focusing now on delivering on our stated objective to get back into exploration and move our projects forward. bit of a look at the capital, the dashboard there. About 1 billion shares on issue, trading at around 0.8%, giving us a market cap about 8.3 million. Okay, so Empire's not just an exploration company. We do like to have investments in other companies and other value accretive opportunities. Our key investment at this stage is the Penny's Find Gold Mine royalty. Empire mined the pit, as you see there on screen, in 2018. Sold the underground mine to Horizon now, owned by Horizon, and we retain a 5% royalty on that. So we're looking forward to Horizon's progress on that project. They've stated that they will continue to develop that project with more resource drilling. They've recently updated the market in that regard, and looking to get a development decision for this quarter. So we look with great anticipation to see that project move forward, because that'll be an excellent source of cash flow into the business. Onto our projects, as you can see, tightly focused in and around the Midwest and the Kalgoorlie region of West Australia. Penny's Gold Project is the project I mentioned earlier that we've just recently done some drilling just out of Kalgoorlie. And Nanity up the north, the Meekatharra, where we'll be up to next, is a really interesting project base there. It's proximal to an existing resource held by Cyprium, and I'll be going through that project with you in some detail. Ewan-Merry, which is a really strong copper gold polymetallic project that we've recently done a lot of work on to develop. Really like the ground package there. And finally, we'll briefly touch on Barlawiri, which is a polymetallic project just out of Kew. It's really quite an interesting ground package there as well. So really interested in getting back on the ground there as well. So just to talk a bit about the Penny's Gold Project, you'll see there that the excise ground is the Penny's mine. We retained all the exploration ground around it. Not a lot of work has gone into that package around Penny's mine over the last few years. Since we have reinvigorated our exploration, we have really poured the RC and air core drilling into the north up there, and we've recently gone back in with that air core program to tease out some more targets that haven't been drill tested adequately. So one of the more recent finds that we had around Penny's is PF09 prospect, discovered in 2019 with some air core drilling. It's a strong supergene target with definitely some primary mineralisation there, where we've got 1 metre at 7.2 grams. Strong arsenopyrite signature that you see all through the goldfields. The PF04 prospect, which is a bit further south, again, you can see that there's been some significant work on that. That's been well known and well targeted in the past, but we're taking a bit of a view on this that may have not been interpreted as you see it there. So we've recently included in that air core program, turn the rig around and have a real good look at it in another direction, along strike as well, which hasn't had a lot of work as well. So keen to see those results come back. We're expecting good things from that prospect. So moving to the copper prospects that we have, and as Ian mentioned, copper is fundamental to the energy transition that we're going through at the moment. So we see that having a strong portfolio that contains copper assets is prudent and will be warranted going forward. Our Nanity prospects that we acquired a couple of years ago have been really underexplored along that Barembe shear there that we see on the right, and it's only just north of Nanity Well, which is a 36 million tonne copper gold project that is owned by Cyprium. The prospects that you see there have we've done some soil sampling late last year on those prospects and thrown up some really interesting targeting there. We've just zooming on a couple of those targets, and bear in mind this is widespread soil sampling, so it does require some more work, but there is a strong correlation between the chromium and the base metal nickel and copper. So really keen to get back up there late this year and fill in some of those soils, start looking at doing some air core drilling on those prospects. It's an exciting area and one that will only get better with more exploration work. Moving to our Untitled project, which again is in the Midwest area. It's a historic area that's had a fair bit of work on it in the past. Empire's had it for quite some time. There's a JORC resource there, 2.5 million tonne, 1.3% copper, about 0.5 gram gold, existing resource. When we reinvigorated our exploration programs a few years ago, we really targeted to try and find similar or likewise prospects to Just Desert. We've spent a fair bit of time on targeting and getting in there with the air core rig, and more recently we've had some success to develop some of those prospects up. In particular, I'll draw your attention to YTO1, which is down the bottom, which is a large target sitting on the synclinal fold there of along strike of Just Desert, which is the 2.5 million tonne JORC resource that we talked about earlier. And Smith's Well, which is a really high tenor sulfide prospect that's really got a lot of smoke to it and warrants some further work. And the third prospect that we're really developing is the A zone, which is again along strike from that Just Desert. So there's a lot of smoke in the area. There's a lot of mineralisation. Bit sport for choice in some aspects to try and target, but we've picked out those three as our key targets. And with the Smith's Well being quite a strong sulfide pyrrhotite target, it is a really strong conductor. So we've been spending a fair bit of time and effort testing that conductor with downhole EM surveys and diamond drilling. The results of that are that it's a very, very thick, strongly mineralised sulfide pile, and strongly pyrritic, but certainly some chalco and pyrite in there as well. It's a steeply plunging structure that as you can see from that photo from the bottom left on that slide there, it's a very, very strong, massive sulfide deposit, and with some really interesting mineralogy there, and really good thicknesses to that. So we'll be continuing to work on that and develop that up further. The other key prospect that we talked about earlier is YTO1, which was identified and discovered in 2019. Again, with some air core drilling, just shows the power of air core drilling through the regolith. And through 2020 and 2021, we hit it pretty hard with some RC drilling, along with many of our other targets, and developed a very strong profile going down. On the screen there, you can see that section demonstrates that there's quite a bit of mineralisation there. We haven't tested this along strike, that's east and west at all, other than the air core, which does pick up some mineralisation there. So it's quite deep, it's quite thick. We would like to be getting in there again and testing those strike extents, and that'll be planned for early next year, early 2023 calendar year. And really looking forward to see what we can uncover from that very exciting prospect at Untitled. The A zone has been heavily drilled, and it suffered from a little bit of I guess they overlooked going up the strike of it, and so we've been putting some drilling up dip, pretty rare to be able to bring things up to surface. And delivering some really good numbers as well. So, you know, we've got some really good numbers, really strong 1%ers up further, and further down strike and down dip, you're seeing some really strong numbers of 2s and 5s and so on, things like that. So really keen to continue to explore that target as well, and really develop that package in and around Untitled. We really need to build on the existing 2.5 million tonne resource at Just Desert, and A zone certainly fits into that profile. The final project I want to just talk about briefly is Balawiri. It's a discrete tenement in the Balawiri syncline area. It's got some historic drilling and some really good strong geophysical targets. It hasn't had any real exploration since the 80s, and we see that as a significant opportunity. The limited drilling that had been done in the 1980s, 87, really showed a very strong mineralised signature to that. Polymetallic, zinc, copper, gold, silver, just about everything in the bag there. So it really does need to have some more work on that. The key target to Barlawiri is the B1 target there, just down from the zinc line, and that has some really strong features to it geophysically, and also the drilling that's gone into it in the past has identified sulfides. It's open along strike. It's got all the tenors, all the indicators of having having something of significance to explore for there. And our limited work to date has really confirmed that those targets exist, that drilling exists, and it warrants some further drilling. So we'll be back in the field early next year to try and uncover the mysteries of Barlawiri, and looking forward to that. So in summary, Empire Resources has an excellent package of exploration projects. We're multi-commodity. We like gold because it's an excellent commodity to be in, but likewise, we really do believe in the energy transformation and the thematic that comes with that. And therefore, we've built our portfolio strongly around those commodities that will be in demand in that transition, in particular copper and nickel. Really, very much a spread of commodity types and also exploration development, greenfield through to JORC. So anything from brand new discoveries through to project development. We're continuously active in the field, so we have a strong news flow. Strong financial position, as I said earlier, 1.5 in the bank at the end of last quarter. So looking forward to putting that to good use. And we've demonstrated that we're efficient and we're effective in the field. We're prudent in our approach, and we continue to develop our projects. And finally, our team's very strong. We have a strong history of corporate success in the market, and also very strong technical skills in around project development and exploration. So putting all that to good use over the next 6 to 18 months will be an exciting time for Empire, and we welcome anyone to get on board and get hold of us and have a chat. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, mate. Great presentation, and I'm sure you get plenty of interest from our attendees today and other people moving forward in the future to indeed hop on board. So really looking forward to seeing exactly where you can take it over the next 12 months or so. And I suppose for you personally, obviously being the managing director, is there a specific focus you would like to see or a specific goal achieved from your company?
Oh, look, James, I think we always want to see success in any of these businesses, and that's 100% why we do. We get involved. I'm not hung up on which direction or where we take success from. It's really about trying to identify those opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities to the benefit of all shareholders. And look, a really good example of that is when we took our position a few years ago in NTM. Empire itself made quite a bit of money out of that. We identified that there was an opportunity there to leverage one of our peers, their good work and their success, and that proved fruitful. We made a 200% profit on that investment. So look, when it comes to our ethos and what we want to do, it's all about trying to identify value and exploit that value and move forward and do it in a prudent, sensible approach.
Look, I think you've done exactly that so far. So let's hope that the wheels keep on turning and there's good things on the horizon for Empire. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thanks, James.
Now we'll come to some questions there for Sean in just a bit of time as well. But just before we do, let's move on to our final guest speaker for today, namely the Managing Director of Tempest Minerals, Mr. Don Smith. Now, Don is someone who we've had quite a lovely little collaboration here with Kalkine for some time now. So it's great to have him here once more. And for those of us who are attending today and who might not be 100% across what Don does, well, he's a geologist and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in the mining industry. He's worked in operational, development, exploration and consultant roles across more than 10 different countries and numerous commodities, including base and precious metals, and also, of course, energy minerals. Now, Don's corporate experience includes project acquisition, financing and development, and company management. And of course, he is the current managing director of Tempest Minerals. And so to tell us exactly what Tempest is doing and how it all works in with the space of this green transition, I'll now throw it over to yourself, Don. The floor is yours, mate.
Thanks a lot, James. And thanks to Ian Sean for giving us the great prelude. It's going to be hard to top those ones. I'd also like to thank Kalkine and indeed the audience for joining us. So Tempest, many of you may be familiar with us doing exploration here in Western Australia with also a lot of exposure to projects internationally. There's a disclaimer that anyone can read in their own time. A bit about our company. So on the left, you can see we've got our main focus is here in Western Australia. We're a copper, gold and lithium explorer. And you can see that over the last 6 months or so, 6 to 12 months, we've proven our exploration creds by making multiple mineralization discoveries. We also, similar to what Sean was saying, we're not averse to having investments in other companies and other projects, and I'll be talking a bit about more of those later. In company-wise, we've got an experienced team, fantastic jurisdiction here in Western Australia, and we have a big focus on science and technology and also the sustainability of what we do. We've got a modest capex at the moment there, considering the quality of the projects we've got, and yeah, we've got about 7 million cash minus investment we made, but those numbers haven't been audited yet for the September books. In terms of the team I mentioned earlier, many of you will be familiar with Brian Moller, who's our chair. He's quite renowned in the industry for making quite a few large exploration and development companies, including SolGold PLC. Got myself, Andrew Haythorpe, who's a geologist and financer, and MD of a number of companies at the moment. And we've got Owen Birchall, who's an experienced engineer and currently bringing the Abata Resources IPO onto the market. On our side here, we've got Paul Pergem, our company secretary, is a fantastically experienced accountant and company secretary, and Tim Bevis, who's not long joined us this year, acting as senior geologist, and he's been making a lot of inroads, bringing wide, diverse thought process into our exploration. I mentioned earlier we're keen on sustainability. I think everyone in the industry is heading in this direction, but we've made it a core from the very start of what we do. So a very strong focus on minimising our environmental impact. One of the ways we do that is by making much smaller impact when we're doing exploration in the field through innovative techniques such as using small drill rigs and technologies which reduce our impact on the environment. We've also got a close working relationship with all our local communities and stakeholders. And as I mentioned earlier, our experienced team, we've all been there and done that, and that ensures that our corporate governance is top notch. Technology is a big focus of Tempest, and I guess it's almost a circular thing going forward, in that we need more minerals to supply the technology which will be critical to everything going forward, and we use that technology to find the minerals which we're supplying them. Some of the ways we're doing that, we're the first public user of the geotech box scan technology, which is an automated core and sample storage system here, and it does a wide array of sensors such as XRF, hyperspectral, magnetic susceptibility, imagery, all these things, and it does it all automatically in one go, in one unit, which has reduced our overheads and particularly our labour costs. You can see a phone here on the right, which we use extensively in the field. So we're a paperless company. Everything we do is digital and goes straight into our cloud. And of course, many people in the industry using drones and such things in the field. Onto our projects. This is a lovely picture from Christmas 2 years ago, drilling into one of our high priority projects called Warland, which has some high grade gold at the surface there. Bit of an overview of where we're working. As I mentioned earlier, we're focused in Western Australia, but we also have strong investments in PNG, Africa and North America. Our current focus, Western Australia, we've got about 1,000 square kilometres across our portfolio. They're spread across the Mount Magnet, Yalgoo and Yilgarn lithium exploration zones. And you can see we are very active at the moment. We've got 3 drill programs in progress, a total of about 15,000 metres. And of course, we're also a multi-commodity and de-risk company. So I'm not a big believer in commodity focus for a company. Yes, it makes sense for producers, but you've got to keep your mind open when you're looking for things. Onto Yalgoo, which is definitely our focus. You can see it's quite a large holding there. And in between these very large spheres we have here, they're all world-class mines. And we've got a large land holding in between and around these projects. And it's not just neurology. We've actually remodeled the geology for much of this region. And one of the reasons it appealed to us in the first place is the large amount of mines there, but it has fantastic infrastructure, road, water, power, telecoms. It's a very low bar to moving forward with our project development. Our current main exploration focus is the Malaya Project. So some of you may know that we made a mineralization discovery earlier in the year at the Orion target here in the centre. That was a magnetite copper and plus or minus other base metal mineralization. Unfortunately, the grades weren't as high as we anticipated, but that hasn't stopped us. We've got 50 kilometres or more of ground that has never been explored. This is due to a mislabeling or a poor analysis of the data in the past, and that's our opportunity. So in addition to Orion, we're now drilling at the Clover target here, or if we haven't started today, we will in the next 24 hours. And we recently just finished drilling at the Master target, which we announced a day or so ago, where we've hit mineralization in every single hole that we've drilled so far. So there's only 3 holes in an entirely new greenstone belt here, and with mineralization in all of them so far, which is a pretty good track record and pretty exciting for what we might find going forward. Mentioned earlier the work we did already. So there was the 2 holes we drilled at Orion. We also did a EM survey, which showed that there is a substantial pod style mineralization there. We're assessing how we're going to look at that going forward. We just finished drilling at the Master target, did a mere 450 meters there. That was just to test a target which has been a high priority for us for some time. And as I mentioned earlier, we announced a few days ago that had some low-level sulfides and silicified shear zones, which means it's quite exciting for copper, gold, and other commodities. In terms of geophysics, we've had quite a focus on that in the middle of this year. Since we did the Orion drilling, we've done the EM survey I just mentioned. We've also done an EPR, electroparamagnetic survey, which is a bit of an unconventional one that not many people are doing, but it's come up with at least 250 signals, which we definitely need to follow up. So some of those coincide with exploration targets we have already, which is pretty exciting. In terms of things that we have going on, well, the targets that we can attack at Malaya, you can see here, we've got the greenstone belt that I mentioned has never been explored. It's never had a lease on it before. And we've got literally, that doesn't even scratch the surface, that picture. We've got dozens and dozens of targets that we're keen to drill. So one of the ways we're going to attack that is to do a widespread air core program over the top of pretty much the entire belt. And that's coming up towards the end of the year. At the start of the year, or the end of last year, we were working at the Euro project. This is an exciting one. It's a little bit less greenfield, or parts of it are less greenfields than Malaya. but it's got a significant historic gold drilling there. So there's hundreds of holes have been drilled there, and you can see some fantastic results of 17 meters at a gram, 7 meters at 3. And these were never really followed up because gold was worth $200 an ounce when that work was done, not 2,000 like it is now. And we did some drilling there in December, January, and also hit gold, but we also hit a bunch of polymetallic mineralization in that drilling, and that's really put us back, not in a negative way, but put us back at the drawing board to try and understand what the geology is that's going on there. And our current thought is that it's probably some sort of skarn, and that's exciting because they usually come in fairly large style of mineralization. Similar to what I just said, there's some of the polymetallic stuff that we found there, a bunch of copper, zinc, even arsenic and iron. And given we're next door, mere couple of kilometres away from one of the largest iron ore mines in Western Australia, then the presence of iron is curious, to say the least. We also, just to push the envelope a bit more, we've just a few months ago signed a MOU with Carrara Mining, who own the said iron ore mine, and their focus is on production of iron ore, and they recognise our exploration, that we're doing good work, and the deal is that we are going to earn in for 70% of the land, which extends our Euro project to the north. We also have a critical holding here in Mount Magnet. Mount Magnet's probably an area that more people are familiar with. It's produced a huge amount of gold over the last 100 years, and the main player there is Ramelius Resources, who the operations you can see in the foreground of that picture. Our land holding here is this blue area in the middle of the picture, and it's only a few kilometres away from multiple processing facilities there in Mount Magnet. We know there is mineralisation at the project. We've been doing a lot of mapping and geochem recently, and we're looking to do some drilling there next year. So we think there's a good chance of making a discovery here and providing additional mill feed to the local producers. So there's been quite a bit of noise about our interest in Papua New Guinea in the last few months as well, where we announced that we were going to merge with Wallan Mining. Unfortunately, we're unable to complete our due diligence in time for some key milestones there, but we've still decided to make a $1 million investment in the project, which gives us a substantial holding in Wallan Mining as they move forward with various corporate and development activities. And the big one there is the development of the Tolokuma gold mine. Previously, it produced more than 1 million ounces of gold and several million ounces of silver, and there's a very large resource remaining there that is yet to be upgraded to the JORC 2012 standard, so we cannot report it, but we're looking forward to informing the market when that occurs very soon. There's also some fantastic exploration ground at Mount Penk in the north here, and it's right next door to some large developments, and everyone who's worked in that area knows that there is a lot of gold going on there. So even big companies like BHP were involved there not that long ago, and they had to pull out for their own reasons, but we're very excited to see what could go on there. It could be a company developer in its own right. So Tempest started off its journey as a lithium company. So I mentioned our sustainability credibility earlier, and this is part of it. So we're big believers in the electric future and critical minerals, and lithium being a core of that. So we have our own lithium projects here in Western Australia. The one we've done the most work on recently is Rocky Hill, where we've done a swag of soil sampling and mapping and come up with some most curious anomalous lithium numbers and other elements as well, well above the abundance you would expect in the crust or the earth as a general. So there's definitely something going on there, and that has prompted us to take a larger land holding there, where we've essentially quadrupled our land holding up to about 260 kilometres. A large amount of that's pending, but yeah, we're pretty excited to see where that leads. Although lithium is not our core focus at the moment, it is a very important part of our our portfolio. And you can see in Australia, we've got a number of projects in application, which are part of our project portfolio as an exploration company. We also have exposure internationally with the high-profile Tonopah project, which is being developed by Argosy Minerals. We have a milestone payment due if they reach certain milestones in that development. We also have a large shareholding in Premier Africa Minerals, who have a number of lithium and other critical mineral projects in Africa there. What's next? So I've mentioned earlier, we've got quite a bit going on. It's a pretty hectic time, and for many explorers in the industry, including us. As you can see here, we've got people in the field almost full-time, non-stop. We've got just finished drilling program earlier in the year. We've got 2 drilling programs going on at the moment, and we anticipate that'll be going non-stop into 2023, along with a number of other developments, which looking forward to updating the market on in the coming months. Also doing a lot of promotions, such as this fantastic webinar, and we'll be attending a couple conferences, including IMARC and Digitalisation in Mining towards the end of this year. And of course, as with all companies, we have many ways to contact us. Here's our social media on the right, our contacts on the left. And we've also just soft launched a new website. So we'll be officially launching that next week, but everyone can go check it out if they want. And we have an investor hub there where investors and people interested in Tempest can interact directly with the company.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And mate, really keen to see what's on the website too. What would you say would be the most exciting part about that new launch?
Oh, I'm pretty excited about the investor hub. I think that's a game changer. It's developed by a company in Melbourne who believe there's a better way for investors to be able to deal with companies and to get their information. So I'm looking forward to putting a whole bunch of videos up on the website. I've just been out in the field. I only got back a few hours ago. We've been filming the team in the field and the nature and all the things that are going on there on site. So yeah, pretty keen to get that up there and to be able to share that with everyone about the cool things that we're doing.
Now, look, you're always very busy, so I do appreciate you making time for us today. And just before I let all of you go, yourself, Don, Ian, and Sean, let's get into a couple of rapid fire questions here. So we'll go one by one, starting with you, Ian, given you are our first presenter for the day. First question to you is, what would you say would be the most productive thing that you get involved in throughout the day within your role?
The most productive thing I do is really building that pipeline of targets, and because if you don't get the technical success in the field, then all the rest doesn't really matter. You know, you've got to do the hard work and get that success in the field. So I'm a very hands-on operational guy, 30 years experience in geology. So I still do a lot of operational work as an MD to try and move towards that exploration success.
No, tremendous. And Sean, a bit of a quick fire question here for yourself as well. I know Kanal, our CEO here at Kalkine, is a big fan of Steve Jobs, for example. So there's a lot of quotes around the office here from him, and he does use that as a source of inspiration. But Sean, what would be one key quote that resonates with you?
From Steve Jobs. Or doing something, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. Oh, look, there's so many. There's a lot to unpack there. Oh, look, you know, I think as a probably to follow on from what Ian was talking about, I think if you get out there and do your work and show the guys in the field that you're prepared to be out there with them and get on the shovel and do the dirty work, then there's no other leadership like it. And notwithstanding that we all have very small companies that really are always resource constrained, you have to be able to lead from the front. So there you go. That's probably mine. Lead from the front, and just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So that's probably just a bit of a shout out to all the technologists out there.
Mate, I like it. Every time I look at my pasta and I see a little glass of chili sauce there, I think I could add this to it and get a bit of a kick, but it's a bad idea. And that is much something I like to live by as well. Let's come to you, Don, now. This is our last little general question before we get more into our business-focused questions itself. We'll keep the same sort of concept here. Who would you say is your inspiration and why?
Oh, that's brutal. I'll say two. One's definitely my parents. They were both explorers and developers themselves, so I know I get my my workaholic nature from them. But also, very senior geologist who used to run Western Mining, who recently passed away. A lot of his management and particularly dealing with people concepts, I definitely draw heavily on those.
I like that, mate. I mean, so often we look at, sort of celebrities or, musicians, things like that. But I like that you've kept that close to home. That's a nice little personal touch. Now, Ian, we'll come back to you here and we'll focus more specifically on Cooper Metals itself. So when Cooper Metals sets out to acquire new assets or to start a new project, what are the three main criteria that you look for before you make a decision?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this is quite relevant to Cooper Metals in that we've only been going for the last not even 12 months. But when I set out with the rest of the board to find key projects for Cooper Metals in the IPO, we were looking at, the three main criteria really were the things that were in known mineralized terrain. So we wanted to go explore in areas where we knew there was mineralization. We also wanted to explore in areas where there was good key infrastructure support as well, so that if we did find something, it didn't have to be standalone, that it could be toll treated potentially, and you can still re-rate a company in that way and generate a lot of value and shareholder value. And the third one that we believed needed to be underexplored. And I mean that, a lot of these areas haven't had a good going over in the last 30 years, and technology has moved on a lot since then, and there's a lot more better geophysical tools. I mean, for instance, airborne EM and the EM systems are like 10 times more powerful than they were 25 years ago. So we wanted to take advantage of areas that could benefit from modern exploration techniques.
I think that's a great point. I mean, we heard in Don's presentation too, he was talking about some rather strange ways of, I suppose, assessing some of these sites and things that we probably wouldn't have thought of about 30 or 40 years ago. So you're right, 100%. When that tech comes to the fore, you've got to make a full fist of using it, I suppose. Let's move on now to Sean. Sean, question for you is, Empire strengthened its position in the industry in the 2022 financial year. What would you say would be the key growth drivers that were able to see that happen for you?
Yeah, look, I think it just comes down to hard work and being prudent with what you do. We've all got very limited funds in this game, and you're always trying to deliver some value with ever decreasing resources, because we're all trying to share the same resource. We all know it takes time to get assays through labs, all those sorts of things. So it just comes down to hard work and focus, and probably just expanding on even what Ian just said there. You really got to spend more time trying to uncover those opportunities. So going through old data sets and trying to find what's been missed. Looking at elements. I mean, a great one is always just, grab an old file that's got multi-element and see how many LI numbers in there. And Don would probably be able to attest to that. Just have a look how much LI is in there, because it was never explored for in the past, and to the same extent that we are today. So hard work, trying to uncover those gems, and being as efficient as you can, and not try to everything you do has to add value. Every dollar you spend has got to add value.
100%. Now, Don, moving to you, mate. You might have already covered this a little bit during your presentation, but I really want to hammer down on it because I think it's quite important. Recently, you announced at Tempest that you've completed initial drilling at the Malaya Project. What would you say would be the major discovery at the site? And is there a bit more information you can go into that particular project for us?
Sure. The drilling we just completed was at Master, which is just one of our many targets there. It's a magnetic anomaly, so stands out quite prominently, and that's what we've been focusing our first amount of drilling on is the high magnetic areas. We certainly hit a whole bunch of new rocks in that hole, and that's part of the game of, especially when you're exploring in a brand new terrain. So some of the rocks that we've been hitting there, we found some new mafic dikes and or ultramafic even, and they even had some pyrrhotite, which is most curious because that's the kind of mineralization in rock type that you're looking for nickel. I'm not claiming there is any nickel there, but it was not what we're expecting to hit, I can tell you that much. So there's that, and it's also the presence of mineralization throughout our drilling is pretty exciting.
Well, I'll give you a double up here, Don, and we'll reverse the order just for a moment because I like switching things up. Let's focus on the Euro project. What is the geology perspective for gold, base metals, and iron ore there?
What is it?
So what kind of, I suppose, level of prospectiveness are we seeing in the Euro project for gold, for base metals, and for iron ore?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, that's easy answered. It's got the Euro project's right in the middle of three world-class mines. So you've got Carrara iron ore, you've got Rothsay, which is more than 1 million ounces, and also Mount Mulgine, which is tungsten. And they're literally, those three projects touch the edges of our project. So it's exactly the same rocks continue through our project. So it's pretty easy to pick what our targets are going to be there. But as Sean said before, we went back through some old data, and there's even lithium recorded in some of the old reports there. So the geology is very prospective. The northern half's been explored but hasn't been analysed properly. The southern half hasn't been explored at all. So there's a lot to do there.
Oh, you mentioned tungsten there, and of course tungsten is pretty well associated with gold as well over the years, so I think you've got plenty of good opportunities there, that's for sure. Let's now come to you again, Sean, and I want to focus on one particular thing here, which is the Penny Gold project. What would you say is the key development that you're anticipating for that project in the coming year?
Yeah, well, it's probably more than one development there, James. First of all, as you were seeing on that image, we hold the surrounding ground around Penny's Fine Gold Mine, which is now held by Horizon, who have committed to developing that project, although they still have to obviously make their investment decision there, but there's certainly a lot of work to be done. And we see a lot of advantage to that. That package around it, we would hope that the mineralisation continues into our tenure, back onto our tenure, to the northwest of the Penny's Fine Gold Mine. So we watch with anticipation what happens there, and we'll take advantage of any information that Horizon can deliver to the market in that area. But equally, regionally around there, we've got some really interesting grassroots targets, and for us, it's we can only control what we can do. So we'll get back into there, and as we've seen, we've done some air core drilling. We're trying to uncover those oxide targets. Kalgoorlie gold is synonymous with arsenic and arsenopyrite, so arsenic plumes and arsenic indicators are strong in that area. So we'll be looking at those, and obviously then tracking those into the primary mineralisation as well. So look, it's early days for our exploration in that area, and it's yet to be proven that there is more deposits in that area, but any explorationists will tell you straight away that where there's one, there's likely to be another one. So you find gold where gold's been found. So that's our plan for Penny.
Yeah, terrific. Now we'll go for one final question for Sean and Don, but Ian, we've got two here to get you back up to speed so we can close out yourself for now. Let's begin with, I suppose, if you had to pick just one thing that Cooper Metals does, what would be the prime focus for the company right here and now? Let's take everything else off the table. If there was only one thing you could do, what is the focus?
But the focus is drilling at our key prospects, King Solomon and Python, and chasing that mineralisation down deeper and along strike.
Simple. I like it. It's straight to the point. That's probably what shareholders want to hear as well, that you've got a clear vision about things. And last one for you, Ian, is how is CPM positioned to go about in its plans for discovery of significant copper and gold for the 2023 financial year?
Well, we're positioned very well. Financially, we've just raised another $2.5 million, putting us at around the 5.5 at the end of last quarter. So we're well funded. We've got a huge 10-year package. We've got drill-ready targets, and we're discovering mineralisation pretty well with every drill hole that we're putting into that whole Mount Isa East project area. So I think over the next 12 months, we plan to build on that success, and I'd hope to emulate our neighbours' success like Carnaby, and to build that portfolio of copper gold assets.
Yeah, well, I think we might well see your share price continue to zoom up there, Ian, and thank you so much for being with us here today. And we'll get your final thoughts in just a moment, but thanks for answering those questions too.
Thank you very much.
Well, Sean, we'll come to your last question now, mate. Now, Empire has been continuously working to uncover the geology of its major projects. What's going to be the company's strategy to fast track all of those activities in the 2023 financial year?
Drill. Just drill. That's all you can do. I mean, if you're not putting holes in the ground, you're not making discoveries. So, just get out there and drill. It's about making sure you drill in the right spot, and a bit of luck and a bit of science goes a long way.
Mate, and I know you're a real team player, so next time we talk to you, you might be covered in a whole bunch of dirt. So I know you'll get out there amongst it. But Sean, thanks so much for answering all those questions, mate.
No worries, thanks.
And let's wrap things up here with Don. One final question for you, mate. What major developments are expected during exploration of Tempest projects over the course of the coming year, and certainly into the back end of the 2023 financial year?
Yeah, similar answer to the other two gentlemen. Lots of drilling. We'll be drilling at Malaya and drilling at Malaya, and then we'll be drilling elsewhere. So, yeah.
Drilling, and more drilling from all three of you. I love it. Don, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Now, guys, just before I let you all go and get back to your busy schedules, we'll start with you, Don, given we've still got you here on screen. What are the final thoughts you'd like to leave with our investors and attendees today, and just the thoughts of getting involved today with the webinar from Kalkine?
Oh, look, I think this is a great forum for getting the message out, and it's exciting. We're going to a new phase at Tempest, where we're, as I said, it's all about the drilling at the moment. So we've spent quite a bit of time setting up and planning for this, and we're into it now.
Yep, time for talk is over. It's all about the action. I like that, Don. It's a good approach. Sean, same to you, mate. What do you want to leave with our attendees today, and thoughts in general, I suppose, on getting involved?
Yeah, look, it's obviously a great platform to be able to get our message out there very efficiently, and hopefully we've answered a lot of questions. And look, going forward, watch this space. We're constantly busy doing what we're doing. It's a bit like a duck in a pond, I suppose, sometimes, but always trying to be active. And I encourage any shareholder or prospective shareholder or anyone who's got interest to get hold of the company and ask us if they've got any questions. Feel free to give us a call. Don't be a stranger. More than happy to respond in any other ways that we can respond.
Well, Sean, much like a duck in water, I'm sure you guys are going to make a splash over the next 12 months. So well done. Thanks for being here today with us. And Ian, we'll wrap up with yourself, mate. What thoughts would you like to leave with our investors and attendees today?
Look, I'd like to congratulate Kalkine as well. It's a great forum to be part of, and I really enjoy listening to the other guys' talks. They're really good stories. Look, if you like copper and you're not looking at Mount Isa, you really need to be looking at Mount Isa. And we've got a lot of news flow coming up with our drilling starting at the end of the month. So please look at Cooper Metals. Keep up, subscribe to our website, and like Sean was saying, don't be a stranger. You can contact me as well for more information. So thank you very much.
100%, Ian. Thank you so much for being here. Sean, Don, appreciate your time. Every one of you, it's been great to see the presentations and have you answer all those questions. And of course, as Ian is mentioning there, don't feel like you can't get in touch. You can certainly do so via us here at Kalkine Media. We can pass on any and all conversations and questions you might have to our experts today. The easiest way to do that is by giving us an email, info@kalkinemedia.com. That's info@kalkinemedia.com. Just address which expert you'd like to answer the question, and we'll make sure to push it on. But that is all for this particular InvestNest webinar. Hope you've taken in plenty from it, that you might have a bit more of an understanding about these three great companies, whether it be Empire, that is pursuing your interest, whether it be Tempest Minerals or of course Cooper Metals. They're all great companies, so we love having our experts here on board today. And as always, when it comes to Kalkine, we ask you to stay apprised and invest wise. But until next time, we hope that you have a fantastic day, and we can't wait for your company once more.